So if you could sum up the trip in one word, what would it be?
Ooh.
Oh dear.
One word.
One word. Wow. That's tough.
I would say
So the organization that we worked with was out of Atlanta. It used to be the Dream Center, now they call themselves Frontline Response because they want to emphasize that they're on the front lines with all three of their ministries. So the people that are working at Frontline really have a heart for what they do. They're always looking for people to help them in their ministries. You can tell by the way that they act, the way that they conduct themselves on the streets. They really have a heart for the Lord and the people that they're serving. So the type of outreaches that we got to do were community outreach, homeless outreach, and then anti-sex trafficking outreach also.
So we'd get up, we'd have breakfast at Camp Gideon, and then we would head to Frontline, which the first few days we went to East Side Church to do kind of a overview and stuff. After that, we would go to Frontline and do an outreach in the morning, and then we would have lunch, and then do another outreach, and then dinner, another outreach. And so it was just constantly working with the community and helping whatever way we could.
So community outreach was a major aspect of our ministry in Atlanta. It basically just involved giving back to the community, anything from organizing a clothing closet to cleaning up low-income housing, doing kids ministry with Metro Kids. My group was in charge of organizing our mobile closet that they had and kind of taking out the winter clothes and putting more summer clothes in, just a way for the Dream Center to provide for the homeless during all the different seasons.
So basically it was called God Is, and God Is where there was a sign that said God Is, and then all of us had to put one word. I didn't do that. I put a sign that said Honk for Jesus, and I think that's what I loved the most, just because it was the most interactive with all the cars. And so I ran along the streets, around the corners, throwing the sign at people, kind of showing them honk for Jesus, and then I was keeping tally on how many people were actually honking. And then when we got to the intersection with the highway, it got way too many. Everybody was screaming, everybody was jumping, and everybody really focused in on it, and I think it was a really good one as a class. Yeah. It's one of my favorite ones that we did.
I met some guy there. He's 19 years old, he just graduated high school, and he was just talking about his experience living where he had been and how he has to work really hard to just keep above everything. And he's actually signing to play football at Auburn University as a quarterback, and then he challenged me to a race and we got to run around some and got to beat him.
One time when we were doing Metro Kids, we actually knocked on this door, and this older woman named Brenda answered, and we were like, "Hey, we're just here to play with some kids. Do you have any kids?" And she was like, "No, my kids are grown." And she just started talking about her family and her life, and we were like, "Well, is there anything you need prayer for?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, you always need prayer for something." And she was just the sweetest lady, and she invited us in to pray. And So we prayed with her, and after we prayed for her, she volunteered to pray for us, which I thought was really sweet. And then she was like, hold on, let me go get my Bible. And about a few seconds later, she comes back with her Bible, and it's just pages and pages of notes and highlighting and just verses she thought was important. And she was explaining how when she's upset or she feels lonely because her kids are gone, she just opens up her Bible and goes to the Lord because that's all she really has right now. Like, as soon as you walked into her house, you could tell that she just had this passion for the Lord. You could see crosses everywhere, pictures of Jesus, and she kind of told us a little bit about her testimony about how she was recovering from drinking and smoking a while back, and when she felt like she was gonna relapse and go back to those awful things, she would open up her Bible and rely on the Lord. I feel like everybody we met was just so willing to hear what we had to say and willing to share their story and willing to even share their testimonies and just spend time with us talking about the Lord through everything they've been through.
I always thought, oh, it's America. Like, everyone's living, a pretty decent life. But just like seeing there's a lot of homeless and poverty all over the place, especially in the cities for sure. I think it was whenever we were doing the outreach of like picking up trash and stuff, like I didn't realize that people just really don't care about where they live at to like clean it up and to take care of it. I saw that a lot overseas, and so seeing that in America, it was just sad.
We were just cleaning up trash it was like an apartment complex thing, and it was very dirty.
What are some of the types of things you picked up besides
A mouse.
besides a mouse? Yeah.
Bullets and cigarettes, trash, drugs, food. It was gross. It made me grateful to live where I live and how clean it is, because it never gets that bad around here, so it was very eye-opening.
Whenever we were giving stuff out, it just felt like we were just good people handing good things out to people just so they can last for a little while. But whenever we give them the flyers, we knew that there was a possibility to change their future and their lives as a whole. Knowing that there could be a lasting impact with the flyers, knowing that they could get out of the drugs or just escape from that environment into something better, into a Christ-centered environment. It's just a really good feeling to know that we're not only changing the moment, but we're changing their whole life.
Growing up, I was always taught to stay away from those people, like whether they're on the side of the street or asking for money, because I always thought they might be dangerous or they were just like professional beggars. Because I know there's a rumor going around our city that there's people that they go out and they, for a living, they go out and beg for money. When we're going on the trip, I really noticed that there are some people that they really do need help. And so I think that in our community, there's more people out there that really need help than I think what I really realized before this trip.
Normally, they avoid eye contact or they don't want to talk to them because they're either begging for money or they want drugs, something like that. That's what everyone thinks that homeless people are about, but it's not that. They just want something good out of life. They want to find their way. It's not like all people there are there because they want drugs. Most of them are trying to get out of addiction, which is harder to comprehend, but it's not like a lifestyle that you want to be in. So we were able to minister to people and tell them about hey, we have this organization that can help you get out of homelessness, and we were able to witness at least 2 or 3 of them get out of it.
It really just kind of worked out like how God wanted it to, because my group was able to talk to this man named Deep, and then he was kind of asking he wanted to call us, so we set up a meeting with him with someone the next day, and they were able to talk, and then the very next day he got set up in a program, so he got to get out of his situation. So just that aspect was cool to see. Normally we have the perception that they're just gonna be we want this, or even sometimes people go in oh, we shouldn't talk to them, or they're scary, but really him specifically, but most of the people we met were just super sweet, genuine, friendly people, and they just wanted what they needed. They didn't want anything more than that, so it's interesting and cool to see.
Talk to me about Ken. What was that like, that whole story?
Well, we met him under a bridge. He was walking back to where he was sleeping, which is above on the top ramp of the bridge. and we gave him some hygiene packets, and the entire time he was telling us, make sure you listen to your parents, always listen to your parents, like get an education, do good. And so we asked him about his story, and so he said he used to be this famous boxer, and people were asking him like all of these questions over magazines and newspapers, and he was making a lot of money. And then he told us that he got caught up in the wrong crowd, and so he lost all that money, and he found himself on the streets. And he would talk about how during the night, how the streets were like, and people were just like shooting guns up in the air and throwing bottles at him, and how he actually got shot in the knuckle, and so he didn't have a knuckle on his ring finger anymore. And the entire time he was just saying, listen to your parents, like no matter what your parents do, no matter what your parents say, just say, do what they're told, do what you're told all the time. No matter if it's 4 o'clock in the morning and they ask you to wash the dishes, wash those dishes, because your parents are going to be there for you 100% of the time, no matter what. Also told us to get an education and to like finish out our high school, try to get a diploma, and try to get like a major and everything like that, just to finish it out. I heard a lot how some celebrities get caught up in the wrong crowd. I just never really knew that it could get that bad to where they could actually end up being on the streets and homeless. Yeah. So that really shocked me.
You know, I've always been impressed with our class because I feel like we have had a lot of leadership step up. And one thing that I really saw during the missions trip was one of our leaders, Aubrey, who decided that umbrellas were something that, you know, homeless people needed as well. And so she gave her umbrella out, and we thought that that would be something that we could do for the whole community. And so Coach Green and Coach Longwood decided that they were going to go out and buy some umbrellas, make sure that those were out there as well because it was raining. And that's something that we can do. That was something that was easy, and that was also a necessity sometimes. So I thought that was impactful because it wasn't just something that the Dream Center thought of. It was something that our class decided to do as a way to bless the people that we were out and serving. This trip, when God decided it was time for us to do this, and this was where we were going to go, I think it fulfilled the expectation that it was going to be an impactful trip. And it really opened our eyes to see what our country has, and the poverty it has, and the brokenness it has inside of our nation and inside our borders. And I think that was something that this trip needed, and this class needed, was just to see that in-home brokenness that we can have an impact on, even while we're at home.
With the homeless outreach, the two people that stuck out to me the most were Stacy and Cash. And Cash, I believe he had been out there for 3 years, and he was trying to find a job, and he wanted to make it very clear to us that like he doesn't do drugs, he doesn't do like any of that stuff, but he did open it up to us that he has like a problem with alcohol, and so he was asking us like ways that we could help him with that so that he can get back on his feet. I was just really surprised about how open he was with us about everything, and that was just after giving him a water bottle. He just like gave us his entire life story. Later that night, or I think it might have been the next day actually, Nick was able to go talk to him and pick him up. Stacy was the other one that stuck out to me a lot. She was a tiny little thing. She had kids flip-flops on, and she was talking about like, I've been praying for shoes because like my feet have been cold because all I have is these flip-flops. And so when we were able to provide her with some shoes, she just immediately broke down into tears. And just thinking about how things that we take every single day for granted affected her so much, that was really eye-opening for me. She literally just cried on my shoulder for like 10 minutes, and she was so happy.
You were the person that gave your shoes to that
yeah.
person, right?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because I had this urge in me. I was like, you know, like I don't need these. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like I just felt like I needed to give them to her. And then it was after that she had told me that she had been praying for that. So I felt like that was really God telling me that we should give them to her.
Did you walk back barefoot?
Yeah.
All the way back to church?
Yeah, Phoebe gave me a piggyback ride for a little bit of it.
That's awesome.
We were able to like bless them with something else that they might not be able to have or go without food for 2 or 3 days and like be so hungry, but we were able to bless them with food and umbrellas since it was so rainy. It was really rainy while we were there, and it just was really nice to see them like smile and light up when we gave them their food.
And really, that's something we need to be doing too in our community, is consistently going out and trying to help those people instead of just like every now and again. Just knowing that there are people like on the streets that we really do need to be going out and helping, and I just didn't realize that before the trip. So
I think Kirk or PK said that we gave out about 900 flyers because we only had about 100 left over, and we had the record calls, which I think was 196, and we actually got to see the two people, Mike and Mike, come back, and we got to pray for them, and it's just cool to see them come out of those bad situations and physically get to lay hands on them and pray for them. It was a really great feeling to know that we know it's working, but to see it work in person is just a whole lot of encouragement that we didn't think we needed.
I think I definitely walked into the mission trip feeling like I knew what was going to happen and what was going to go on, but I also learned that nothing can prepare you to see women out on the street being trafficked and homelessness and poverty. So most impactful was Princess Night for me personally. It took me probably 2 nights definitely to fully absorb everything that happened.
Yeah, so we were actually out in the streets of Atlanta ministering to the homeless people as the Atlanta shootings occurred on, I believe that was Tuesday that happened. And so we got back to our campsite and we heard about it. We were like, oh shoot, like 8 people were shot and killed in downtown Atlanta last night. And so yeah, that was really surprising. And to us, as we learned more about it and as we went throughout our week, it really stood as like a testament to kind of the horrors of sex trafficking and what that leads to. And you know, it was especially impactful for us because we were there when it happened. We were in the streets, you know, in the thick of it, but we were learning about the industry as it happened, and we were just like immersed in this environment where we're learning about it as it was happening. So it was like a very tangible, real result. It was just a very strong testament to the horrors of sex trafficking and what it really can lead to. So yeah, at the prayer vigil, we all gathered at this church. There was a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life, you know, from Atlanta, a lot of different churches, and probably people who weren't religious also, even, I'm sure. We just came together to, you know, pray over the victims, pray for their families, even pray for the perpetrator, for the shooter. Yeah, we just all came together as a Christian community and in fellowship prayed over the city and over the whole situation. It was really a really nice experience.
A lot of people who I didn't think like felt deeply about things or understood the situation. That night, our whole class was crying. Everybody was praying for each other. There were certain situations that brought up that were just really hard for us individually to understand. Like, yes, we're going through things that are hard, but these people have it so much worse, and they're right here on the block, on the corner of where we're staying from right now. For me, honestly, it was the praying while the first trip went out. So I was the second trip. So the first trip, everybody went out and we didn't know anything that was going on. I didn't know what to expect, but I was just praying about it, and I kind of just felt the Holy Spirit enter the church, and we're like they do this every week. I don't know what to expect. All I know is this is really happening. Like, people are in such bad situations that I can't even imagine myself or my friends going through. And yeah, it wasn't even the understanding of that. It was just like this feeling like the Holy Spirit's here and he's putting this on our hearts that we don't understand this situation.
Yeah. I think the thing is that really hit us is when going around and seeing all the clubs on every corner and you're like, what is going on? Like the marriage one, the one with just girls. Like, and the thing is that driving around, it wasn't even like it was like only like a square you drove around, and you just felt this darkness over you. Coming back and sitting there and worshiping, and then seeing people come back and hearing what they saw, it was just like, wow. Like girls getting in and out of cars, watching them, and they're like, no, I can't, and then they had to like get out of there. It's just a very hard life you didn't expect because they were just normal people.
Just like you could sense how dark it was there and how like much those people needed God. Because some people, when we got there in the van, you know, they'd run up to us, they'd like talk to us, they wanted the rose and the flower. No one backed away. You can just tell that those people really want God in their lives and they want a way out. They're just scared to from what they've been told in life and everything that's happened. And also like you could just sense how much God was needed there. The thing that hit me the hardest would probably be the first stop we took. The lady came straight up to us saying, oh, you know me, everybody knows me around here. That actually impacted my life a lot because her saying that means she's been there a while, everyone knows her, and I feel like that she does need God and she just feels used by humanity, and maybe that she doesn't want to reach out to God because she's ashamed of what she's done. It made me have a new outlook on life itself, but also on how important God is in your life. And that just really touched me.
So on Princess Night, me and Aubrey were the first ones to get out of the car, and Vivian immediately approached the van, and then in the back we saw Stephanie. And so I went over to talk to Stephanie and basically just asked for her story. And when Kirk first told us to get out of the van, I didn't really believe him that they were prostitutes, because I always kind of envisioned them to be younger, dressed scandalously, and they were dressed like normal people. They were old women, and it wasn't what I expected at all. And so I felt like I was gonna offend them, going up to them, giving them the card and giving them the rose, because they didn't look like prostitutes, so I didn't think they were. And then she immediately opened up to me about it and told me that she was in fact a prostitute, and said that prostituting herself was better than the abusive relationship that she had been in. And so she had been out on the streets for 11 days, and just hearing her say that she would rather prostitute herself than be in that abusive relationship, that is what honestly just broke my heart, because just being out there for maybe the 10 minutes that we were there, I was terrified, having the men approach us. And I just can't imagine being out there all the time, being in her situation. What surprised me about her was that she was so bold that she was just he can wait, I don't care what he says, I want to sit here and talk to you. So I thought that was really awesome. And then after we kind of talked to him and then he went away, then he left us alone for that time so that we could just talk and pray with her.
I really learned that it was these arguments and these fights that we have with people, our brothers and sisters in Christ, are so futile because there's no real reason behind it. We should get along peacefully, and that sounds super cliche and that sounds super hard to do. At the time, I definitely had that what's happening right now, all these problems that seem so big, and the drama in our school right now, it just seems so pointless. My life could be so much worse, and so yeah. I'm really thankful that a lot of people, I hope, healed from that night, because I definitely learned a lot about myself that night, and it was really eye-opening.
In my mind, I was just I'm not gonna go. I had already started crying. I was I just do not want to go. It was scary because only the girls were getting out, and up until that point we had, for the homeless outreaches, we had guys coming with us and at least kind of leading the way, and protecting us, but we were the ones that had to initiate the conversations to the people out there. So I was the first one out, and I had talked to this lady, and it just broke my heart to see how hurt and broken she was. And she was 61 years old, and she was out there, doing things, and she was so used to the kind of love that she receives from men that she doesn't even know. So it was so impactful to me to see they don't know what true love really looks like from God or from other people. I want to show that love to people that feel like they aren't loved. It made me so grateful for the love I have for my family and my friends, and I just want to be able to be that light, a true light to people, not something that they gain from me, but actually just being someone that loves them and can care for them.